Dino Fury is definitely one of the more enjoyable seasons of Power Rangers, especially in the more recent years. Not only does it tell its own story, but it also expands the lore of Power Rangers. We get the introduction of Zato and his alien species Ravkonians from the planet Ravkon, but we actually get visual representation of the Morphin Masters in the TV show. Besides a quick side note made by Zordon way back in Mighty Morphin Season 1, there was never really any mentioning of the Morphin Masters. And thanks to Dino Fury, we actually see what they look like and how important they are to the Power Ranger story overall. Now sure, in some situations people will see this as a cop-out, but for what we have gotten in Power Rangers in the past, and the many questions that have still not been answered, personally I'm just glad we finally got some answers. And some answers that actually somewhat make some sense, for Power Rangers at least. Like I mentioned before, we get the introduction of Zato and his alien species Ravkonians from the planet Ravkon. We find out Zato had basically been fighting this war 65 million years ago with this species that was created by his people specifically for war. Unfortunately, they made their way to Earth. This is around the time with the dinosaur, and basically the story just goes from there and basically continues in modern times. And then obviously we have our Earthling and human characters, the other four Rangers, which are also enjoyable, with the exception of maybe Ollie, but even then he still has his place on the team. Amelia, Javi, and Izzy all have different roles on the team, not only as Rangers but as characters, and they all just work and make fit. This is one of the Power Ranger seasons where I feel each Power Ranger has their own distinctive character, and there's something enjoyable about each and every one of them, including Ollie. And then we get interesting villains in Void Knight and then eventually Void Queen, and we find out why they're even doing what they're doing, and how doing the wrong thing, even though doing it with good intentions, can turn very quickly hazardous. And then also reintroducing some characters from the past in Power Rangers. For example, we had a cameo from Mick from Power Rangers Ninja Steel. He's the reason why the Rangers now have their own archive, and some expansion with the Ninja Nexus Prism, and the reintroduction to Lord Zed, which later on we would actually find out would be a setup for the future season Cosmic Fury. And when you have all these elements together, and I would say you kind of get your standard barrier of what a Power Ranger season should be or what it should look like in the future. And one thing I will say I appreciate, especially from Simon Bennett, on how he doesn't necessarily overindulge on the past. He plants seeds for future events, but doesn't forget the overarching story. Overall, I would definitely recommend Dino Fury to anybody who would watch Power Rangers or would want to get into it. With that being said, when Cosmic Fury comes out, I'll be ready. Now it's time to figure out which teams are the strongest and weakest.